Hello, everyone. Good day to you. My name is Tracy Harrison. I am the founder and lead instructor here at the School of Applied Functional Medicine. I've got a juicy topic lined up for you. This is especially for all of you practitioners out there who are passionate about, curious about, committed to, wanting to increase your clinical outcomes. And I think this is a fascinating topic in the realm of functional medicine because those of you who have been doing this work, whether you're a physician or a nurse practitioner, a pharmacist, a chiropractor, a naturopath, a nutritionist, a health coach, a physical therapist, a psychologist, so many different modalities that we include in our family of practitioners here at SAFM. Regardless of your modality, we are all in the business of wanting to help people through the lens of our particular training, our particular skills, but ultimately our fulfillment, why we do this work, why you work so hard, why you have invested so much into this passion is because you want to help people to get well and stay well. And today's featured topic is going to be all about optimizing clinical outcomes. We have had the privilege, the honor here at SAFM, educating thousands of healthcare practitioners for nearly 11 years now. And we see a lot of patterns of challenges and pitfalls and hurdles and missteps and, as I like to call, mud puddles that we splash into and muck up the works. And there's always an opportunity for us to learn from one another's challenges. And I think there's an interesting dichotomy in the world of functional medicine. Many of you, like me, are passionate about the science, the progressive, constantly evolving edge of technology science that enlivens the power of functional medicine is intoxicating, it's provocative, it's fascinating. Let's face it, it's sexy. And I deeply enjoy on a weekly basis delving into the latest published peer-reviewed research and studies and informational exploratory scientific articles. It's a fascinating time to be alive and doing this work. Concepts today that we honor as foundational in the world of functional medicine, many of them were still considered quackery 10 years ago. Concepts that were barely mentioned in published literature 7 to 10 years ago are now fairly commonplace. And so it's an exciting time to see as we get pervasively, step by step, more acceptance and openness to some of these foundational aspects of interconnected physiology and biochemistry of disease and health, especially going outside of traditional siloed organ systems that had often been sort of the lens of differentiation in conventional medicine. We're opening up to not only looking at the aggregate human organism as a single system, but even looking at the body in the context of an individual person's overall life system. Of course, the body and its functioning is affected by the diet, the mindset, the relationships, the sleep habits, the personal hobbies, the self-talk, the profession, the toxic environment, the nature exposure, all of these things. And honoring the almost inconceivable level of complexity and interconnectedness that exists within these individual human life systems. While we have so much genetic similarity from human to human, our systems can be radically different. And so, yes, we want to help people to optimize their ability to recover from disease in order to feel better, to suffer less. And ideally, we're not just helping them to get well, we're helping them to stay well. But so often, we as practitioners believe that the secret sauce, the linchpin, the strike of the match that lights the flame of solutions for healing for an individual are going to be found in the sexy science. And for those of you who have been doing this work for a while, you likely have already gathered this wisdom we can be there can be great allure of the sexy science, and yes, we want to be aware of the edge of scientific understanding, and that needs that peer-reviewed evidence, that scientific evidence that brings integrity and credibility to functional medicine is key. But here's the thing. A lot of practitioners are fully aware of super sexy science. In some cases, they have an encyclopedic type of insight into disease dynamics. They can teach it. They can well describe it in blog articles. They can describe it. They can educate their patients about it. They have a huge amount of knowledge about what's going on, either theoretically in functional medicine interconnectedness or even in an applied sense in a unique individual's body. But here's the thing. No amount of sexy science in any way, shape, or form is going to ensure that someone gets well, much less that they stay well. And this is because having knowledge of a truth, having even intellectual understanding of a process or of a dynamic, does not at all imply that someone has a commitment to change the behavior that is enlivening the disease dynamics in their body right now. And in some cases, a continued fascination with more science. Ooh, new concept, something else that could be wrong. Oh my gosh, another diagnosis. Instead of having a disease label, you're telling me the name of a functional imbalance, right? I'm adding it to the list of the 16 things that are wrong with my body. I have 16 reasons, good reasons, why I shouldn't feel well. I have explanations for my suffering. There can be real satisfaction from that. Unfortunately, there can also be a lot of really aggressive distraction in that. And as we all know, especially in the world of functional medicine and really entrenched disease dynamics and complicated multi-layered disease, especially things like polyautoimmune, people can become what we sometimes think of as being permanent patients. Right? We all have worked with people who are constantly seeking the new label, the new diagnosis. Oh, a new fancy type of lab that we can run to identify something else that's out of balance, something that's out of whack, something that's wrong. And once we run those labs, we have another solution, right? There's another supplement to take, another regimen to follow. And while I'm not criticizing any of these things, they are absolutely a part of an effective, comprehensive, and wise toolbox for doing the work of functional medicine. They are not enough. They are not even close to enough. And in fact, clinically, many of you have learned they're not the most important thing, because people will tend to keep seeking more scientific labels, more lab data, more supplement solutions, more lists when they don't want to change their lives. It's so much easier to run a test. It's so much easier to seek out another practitioner, maybe to seek out another supplement solution. It's much harder to do that, perhaps, than to change your diet, than to get serious about your stress and stop joking about it or lamenting about it, but actually do something about it. To finally go to bed earlier so that you can get more sleep. To actually stop just talking about wanting to get out in nature and doing it. To actually following through on the good idea of going for walks or having regular movement or regular exercise. There's a difference between knowing it might help or even being passionately committed and convinced that it will help and doing it, right? Which is why you could say that the key concept I want to highlight today is about optimizing clinical outcomes. We could also say it's about the art of facilitating lifestyle change. Now, it's interesting because I know many clinicians, if I say, I'm going to help you optimize your clinical outcomes, their left brain, their science mind is like, yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about it. I need tools. I want to learn in this space. Very motivated. But if I were to say the topic is the art of facilitating lifestyle change, an awful lot of clinicians will check out. I don't need those soft skills. I don't need that. Oh my, how hard is it to facilitate lifestyle change? That sounds like a loosey-goosey topic. Maybe that's more of a therapist topic, or it's relegated to certain modalities. And no criticism, no denigration implied, but people who think of themselves as more anchored by the science, anchored by the biochemistry and the physiology and the sexy science geekiness, are quick often to marginalize the value of, the necessity of mastering the art of facilitating lifestyle change. But I think the reality is, and certainly our decade plus of educating healthcare practitioners here at SAFM has proven, it's not optional. You must be open to and become proficient at the art of facilitating lifestyle change. And certainly if you work in a multimodality practice, you may also lean on and honor and collaborate with the skills of another practitioner who maybe does more of the work of actually engaging with the patient in order to help them step by step through the work, and boy is it work, of facilitating lifestyle change, right? But it's not optional. And we're so quick often to label this as a soft skill. One of those, one of those sort of right brain, relationshipy, touchy-feely, connecting, building rapport kinds of things that are really nice to have. It makes people feel better, but we don't always have time for that, right? We can't always cram that into our available time, and it's not really necessary because after all, if I do an awesome job assessing the case and getting all the right answers and passionately explaining it to the patient, they too will go, oh my gosh, eureka, I'm gonna change. No, they don't do that. They don't do that. And my assertion to all of you is that the fact that they don't do that, and the fact that we may marginalize the necessary skills of facilitating lifestyle change, is a dramatic contributor to practitioner burnout. And this is true regardless of your modality, because as I said in the beginning, the reality is we don't do this work. We don't join this profession. It's a lot of work. It's a massive investment that you have put in of your funds, your time, your passion, your focus, huge amounts of hours, and attention to detail. You don't do that in order to just give people scientifically credible information and hope it helps them. You want to see that it helps them. You want the deep satisfaction and fulfillment of seeing people reverse their disease dynamics, of seeing their MSQ score go from 110 to 75 to 31 to 11, and occasionally 8. You want to see the regression of disease dynamics. You want that fulfillment of knowing that on your watch, in savvy clinical partnership with a unique individual, you helped them to get well and stay well. And you can give them the best of the sexy science, the best of your assessment, the best of education and explanation about what is at play. In fact, you may give them a protocol that is perfect, smack dab on perfect for what they need to do or what could benefit them theoretically. But if they can't do it, or they don't do it, or they won't do it, then all of that intellectual prowess is for what value? Not very much, is it? I mean, we could certainly talk about the fact that as practitioners, we don't ultimately own, we can't jump into someone's mind or go live with them and be their roommate and make them follow through or prepare all their meals. And I know many of us sometimes struggle with the mindset of trying to rescue our patients and clients, and we deliver too much, we go overboard. We don't meet them in the middle of savvy clinical partnership, where we bring our expertise, our time, our passion, our presence, but they have to bring their commitment, their presence, their focus, and their action, right? We have to have a partnership. but you're not going to get to the satisfaction that you want by doing this work unless you spend, I would argue, at least as much time learning to master the art of facilitating lifestyle change, at least as much time as you spend mastering geeking out on the science, which is one of the things that makes us crazy different here at SAFM. We teach a lot of deep, rigorous science of functional medicine. And we teach that from a strong, peer-reviewed, evidence-based science perspective. And then we take the next step of teaching you all of the practical application nuances and huge amounts of case practice. But we also add the critically essential component of, now what? How are you actually going to work with someone in your practice to help make all of this knowledge matter at all? How are we going to translate applying all of this knowledge and understanding this keen left brain intellectual prowess into action? Someone on your watch must do this work. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's someone who works in your office or in your clinic environment, or maybe in your medical system, multimodality kind of system or clinic. Maybe it's someone you refer them to, that you work very closely with, not throw the patient over the wall, but very closely with. But someone must do this work and must be really skilled at it. And on your watch, I believe you must have enough knowledge about what makes the difference between facilitation of lifestyle change and rockin' successful lifestyle change facilitation. You need to know the difference so that you can ensure that on your watch, your patients are getting fantastic skills and partnership from another practitioner on your watch. And so this is absolutely essential. And I want to talk about some of the key underpinnings of ensuring that this happens. Because the reality is there are a lot of ways in which we show up in the clinical encounter that perhaps without us knowing, not that we would do this on purpose, but without us knowing, right up front, derail the lifestyle change process. And I want to highlight some of these for you so that whether you're the one actually thinking about your role being lifestyle change support, making sure that regardless of your particular role in the clinical engagement or your particular modality, that you're not getting in the way. The first thing I want to talk about is acknowledging the fact that your engagement with a patient has actual biochemical force. We've learned a lot over the past 10 years. I would say maybe 15 years ago, we used to think that the notion of a placebo effect was sort of a woo-woo concept. And we often marginalize placebo as just being sort of a pesky thing that had to be overcome in double-blinded, gold standard pharmaceutical research in order to make the evidence credible. But since then, we've learned that the placebo and the nocebo effects are alive and well. They are potent physiological dynamics that actually activate biochemistry in the human body. And the way you engage with your client is huge, which is why I said last month that one of the most essential skills for you as a practitioner is your own self-care. And we've got to get beyond this notion that somehow being a martyr and sacrificing all of your self-care and your own personal health as a practitioner is something laudable and something honorable. I have seen plenty of scenarios where it actually makes you way less effective as a practitioner because you're not well rested, you're not well nourished, you're not grounded. We have too much of our own personal egoic drives caught up in our conversation. We think we know the right answers for a particular patient. When we're not taking care of ourselves, we're more likely to be irritable. We're more likely to be judgmental. We're more likely to cop out and use fear as a motivator, which I really do believe using fear or blame or shame is a real cop out in a clinical encounter. It's easy. You can really motivate people in the very short term with blame, shame, or fear. If the fear is aggressive, it'll work for a little bit longer. But ultimately, none of these help people to proactively and optimistically take charge of their health and run with sustainable, healthy habits and maintaining their disease regression. We are much better at motivating people with opportunity and possibility and belief and commitment when we're grounded, when we've taken care of ourselves, so that we show up at a clinical engagement, checking our own egos at the door, checking our own need to be seen as an expert, our own need to be light, our own need to hang our professional credibility on someone else's success. You know, you got to hurry up and reverse this disease dynamic, because I need your testimonial, because that makes me look good and it helps me to get other clients. I don't think many people do that knowingly, but subconsciously, this is a really palpable dynamic where practitioners fall prey to using negative motivation. And there's a lot of their own self-image, self-worth, self-evaluation caught up in the behavior of others. And we have to be willing and able to check that at the door and make sure that we're taking care of our own mindset and our own affirmation and feelings and vision of self-worth, so that we can be present without all of that extra heaviness in the therapeutic encounter. Because we start right when we walk in the door, or right when the Zoom window pops up, or in email exchanges we have beforehand, creating a placebo or a nocebo effect. And it is true that the engagement with people, the way we converse, people are often looking for hints of hope and possibility. Many people who come to us through the functional medicine lens have been suffering for years and years, maybe even decades, and they can be jaded. They may be on their last shred of hopefulness that someone actually might be able to help them, that finally they may have an answer, a solution, an idea that works. And again, that's not just about it being scientifically credible, but that works for them, that they feel like they are ready, willing, and able to act on. And they are looking for that positivity. One of the most important things that your patients need to hear you say, in your own words, but pretty overtly, is, I believe that you can get better. I believe that you can get better. Not, I believe this will go away in 8 weeks. Not, this solution is the perfect thing for you. Not, I'm going to fix you. Not, I have all the answers, right? But simply stated, I believe that you can get better. They need you to look them in the eye and share that positive belief with them, so that they can risk the hope that you're going to be different, that this referral, this engagement, this program is going to be different for them. It's going to succeed where others in the past, and let's face it, many people through the functional medicine lens have seen 2, 5, 10 other practitioners in order to try to engage, to get at the roots of their great suffering and reverse the disease dynamics. They need to hear that you believe. They also need you to set realistic expectations. We talked about this last month. It is absolutely key that you set upfront realistic expectations, first of all, about the likely duration of how long it's going to be before people start to feel a bit better, and then the typical duration for someone to have dramatic improvement. And I spoke last month about setting these conservatively. People are coming from a pharmaceutical tradition where folks believe that, all right, I should be feeling better in what, 2 days? 2 weeks at most? You know, maybe 3 weeks on the outside. I should really notice some dramatic improvement. This is about the quick fix expectation that often comes from a pharmaceutical tradition that unfortunately is not reversing the disease dynamics. What it's doing is forcibly arresting biochemical dynamics artificially that may not be addressing the roots of the disease dynamic at all. In fact, it may be exacerbating it behind the scenes. But because of the superficial shift of the biochemistry of the numbing of symptoms, people feel better. So they have expectations, if you don't set them otherwise, of a quick fix. And what I have learned over the years and tens of thousands of patients and clients that our students have supported is that if you don't specify, most people are going to give you about 3 weeks before they're going to start to get impatient that they're not feeling something palpable. And so we have to set expectations that step-by-step reversal of autoimmune disease dynamics takes many months. And there's going to be ups and downs. There may be some episodic symptom exacerbation along the way. It's not a straight path. They need to understand that you're going to try some options. You're going to explore them, and not everything's going to work the first time through, because we can't always know whether or not a particular remedy, a particular dietary change, a particular shift is going to be optimal for them. We're going to put the best of our expertise into those proposals, but we're going to learn through experimentation. And the good news is that if we find something that's not working, that's very helpful data. We can weed out that option and try another well-vetted solution. And so we cultivate in them a mindset and an expectation of experimentation, not perfect, first time, straight line kind of path from where I am now to feeling so much better. We have to set the expectation that we're going to come together in a savvy, clinical, committed partnership in order to work step by step. And there, of course, will be course corrections. And the great thing is you've got a nice, rich, big toolbox in order to support them. The other thing that is really critical to set expectations for right up front is that you, as the practitioner, cannot heal them. I actually think this is really important to say, right? People heal themselves. People heal themselves. We support them. We partner with them to do that. And I think this is true of any modality that is working with people on chronic lifestyle-mediated disease, right? All the epidemics that we're wrestling with today. I deeply appreciate that there is a different clinical model in reality, in emergency and acute care. Absolutely. But in terms of the chronic lifestyle-mediated, largely inflammatory disease dynamics that we're supporting people with in the realm of functional medicine, people heal themselves. We provide them with expertise, with tools, with assessment and feedback, with our passion, with our belief, with our presence. But we must work in partnership. Part of the challenge in today's medical model for many of the people we support is that somehow they're going to be fixed by you. And that they're just going to, on many levels, just kind of be an observer of that. But the practitioner is going to do all of the work and come up with all the solutions, and the patient is just going to follow some instructions. But ultimately, the person is going to be fixed by someone else. The majority of the work, the majority of the breakthrough is going to come externally. And that's a really debilitating expectation, because people have to know they are going to be the primary driver of their healing. And so talking about what you bring to the table and what you need them to bring to the table, I think, is essential. And quickly derailing any expectation that people have, maybe unspoken, that they're going to buy wellness. No such thing. No such thing. I don't think many people would say that out loud, but we all know there are a lot of patients who deep down expect that. I'm going to pay you a lot of money and you're going to fix me. I'm going to buy my wellness for you. I'm going to buy symptom relief. I'm going to buy more vitality. No, you're not. It's not available for purchase. It's not available, friends. Absolutely not available. And another major cause for burnout in practitioners is overpromising, promising things you can't promise. Promising things that to no level of integrity or commitment or exhaustion of yourself can you logically or authentically promise someone. You can't promise someone healing. You can't promise someone disease regression. You can't promise them a magic timeline. You can't promise them that this supplement, this drug will work for you. You can't do that, because nothing works for everyone. And the larger context of lifestyle choices in which you are making a particular recommendation. And maybe it is a pill, maybe it is a certain lifestyle choice, or a certain daily habit, right? It is ultimately up to the patient as to whether they move forward on that or not, whether they act on it, whether they do so consistently, and whether or not it's in the context of lifestyle choices. It brings to mind the truth of you can't out supplement a crap food diet. You just can't. The crap food diet's going to win, right? You can't out supplement that. You can't out supplement over the top anxiety and stress and chronic glass half empty ruminating mindset. You can't detox your way out of a chronic toxic overload lifestyle, right? Patient lifestyle change is absolutely necessary. And so please set these expectations right up front. What you're bringing to the table in this clinical partnership and what you need the patient to bring to the table. And then in your work together, role model that you were serious about this, because you rotate in your work with them an intervention based on your assessment, your expertise, your keen discernment. You rotate an intervention with them locking in a stronger health foundation. An intervention and a health foundation, an intervention and a health foundation. Too many practitioners make the mistake of, okay, you're going to be my new patient and I want to blow you away and convince you of my skills, my credibility. I want to convince you that I'm an expert. I want to convince you that I know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to flood you. I'm going to flood you with knowledge. I'm going to flood you with tools. I'm going to flood you with lists of things to do. I'm going to push value on you, and it's going to be about intervention after intervention after intervention. Meanwhile, the patient's sitting over here with about 17 dysfunctional lifestyle choices, with the assumption that those are okay. It's their norm. Just because we glaringly see that their typical sleep habits are promoting disease, please don't ever assume that a patient remotely understands that, or for that matter, is open to changing it. If we don't rotate these activities in order to demonstrate through our action the essential nature of both of us coming to the table and putting the best of our action into the healthcare encounter, then it's easy for people to stay in the space of, oh, you're an expert. I'm impressed. You're telling me a lot. It all sounds great. Can't wait to be fixed. Sometimes we're asking for that. And it's in part because we feel this need to bolster our own credibility. We want to mow people down with how erudite we are, how skilled we are, how much we know. The long list of things that we know will help them. But if people can't or won't act on those things, if they feel overwhelmed right from the get-go and walk away from the opportunity to work with you simply because it feels too hard, it doesn't matter how smart they think you are. It doesn't matter how impressed they are, does it? I doubt that's going to be very fulfilling for you to feel like, wow, they really thought I was an expert, but I didn't help them. They really gave me a lot of credibility for being really intelligent and really savvy, but, their autoimmune disease didn't get better. Of course not. That's not why we do this work. And so we have to be careful where our behaviors are actually motivating medical shame. Massive barrier to lifestyle change is medical shame. This is a massive force, and it's often going on behind the scenes, and practitioners aren't always aware of it. But people, in an effort to be a good girl or a good boy, and they're really do want to feel better, they're suffering, they can see that their suffering is a problem, and they at least acknowledge the problem. They want to learn, they want to know better. They may do a lot of nodding while you're reeling off all of the test results, you're reeling off all of the insights, you're reeling off all of the assessment, the list of disease dynamics that can be reversed. They're doing a lot of nodding, and you're making a list of, okay, here are the 12 supplements that you need to acquire and take them in this order, and these are all the dietary changes you need to make, and here's what I think you should do about your sleep, here's what I think you should do about your stress, here's what I think you should do about your hobbies, and it's this huge list, and they're nodding excitedly. And they go home and they're totally overwhelmed. They're totally and completely overwhelmed. Now, they give you a lot of props for being a really smart person. They may 100% believe in your credibility, but if they can't act on what you gave them, what's the value? They paid you for your time. That's appropriate. But what's the value of that? What's your satisfaction as a practitioner if you just demonstrate your expertise to dozens and dozens of people, but you don't have the deep satisfaction of a long list of human beings you know by name whose lives were sustainably changed by your skill set, right? We have to make sure that we are not overloading, overwhelming, mowing down patients trying to deliver too much value too fast. And we must hold them accountable for not just being open to, but acting on the improvement of health foundations, rotating with each and every clinical intervention that you would recommend. And so this is where they are actually doing the hard work of making different decisions on a day-over-day basis. We start the agreement with rapid relief. And this is another reason why people don't necessarily make lifestyle change, because they do a lot of nodding. They have a lot of hope in you. But deep down on a visceral level, maybe subconsciously, they're not convinced. You sound good. You sound really smart. But, you know, in my quiet moments and when I wake up in the middle of the night, I remember the fact that the people I met with before sounded smart also. And the people I was referred to previously had great ideas also. And that didn't work. And so they may feel really galvanized right after your intake session, but as days go on and the reality of their past and the heaviness of their presence starts to settle in, they can start to feel some buyer's remorse. They can start to feel the creeping up of that nocebo effect. They may be frightened about the magnitude of what is to come. All the uncertainty, right? Rapid relief is essential. I believe that every therapeutic encounter needs to start, right? You're meeting with your patient. Great. You go first. Rapid relief. Specific, immediate suggestions. Typically no more than 2. 2 is not an overwhelming number, right? Maybe 3 if they're a crazy, passionate, already super healthy, habited individual. But not a long list, right? Ideally 2, occasionally 3, sometimes just 1. But specific recommendation that you believe has a very high likelihood of success in giving them some dramatic relief in an area of suffering that they care a lot about. Now, this may not be the area of their primary disease dynamic from a physiological viewpoint. In fact, often it's much better if it's not. But instead, it's sort of a pesky, annoying, debilitating dynamic that affects them every day. Think about things like headache, diarrhea, constipation, insomnia, right? Acid reflux, things that you can quickly use really good tools in order to support them to not just get a little bit of relief, but some dramatic relief. Rapid relief really needs to happen in those first 3 weeks that I mentioned earlier, while their hope, their openness, their optimism is high. We need rapid relief to succeed, so it galvanizes, not just hope, but galvanizes their belief that you know what you're doing, that you finally are going to be a person who can help them to have some sustainable health improvements. They need to galvanize their belief in you, and for that matter, their belief in their own ability to feel better, period. Don't assume that that's something they're going to give you, especially through the functional lens where people may be quite jaded and on the edge of being hopeless. Their dominant feeling may be one of skepticism or like I said, jadedness, right? Guarded optimism, small guarded optimism. Rapid relief can really help someone to, and I've seen it before in my own clients. On our practitioner forum here at SAFM, people jump in and share quotes about this all the time. Oh my goodness, I just got this awesome text or this awesome email or EMR message from my patient. Wow, I can't believe XYZ is so much better. I've been struggling with this for years and years. You can practically see the building of the placebo effect, the building of the commitment to this partnership, the building of the optimism, the building of their willingness to consider acting, to consider changing. Absolutely essential to prioritize rapid relief. Sometimes practitioners jump right away into educating the heck out of the patient about everything that's going on in their body, which is intellectually satisfying, but it's not getting them any relief. And so this rotation of the clinical intervention and the health foundation is essential. Begin with rapid relief. Set expectations about the necessity of the patient showing up and committing to becoming ready, willing, and able to change in the lifestyle components that are creating or sustaining the disease dynamics in their life. I think it's critically important that people expect this right up front. And so setting expectations, I think, is really essential, and making sure that you're not over promising. At the same time, like I said, you don't want to create a nocebo effect. You certainly don't want to say glass half empty things. Well, most people never get over this, but maybe we'll work together and hope it works, right? I'm exaggerating to make the point, but a lot of practitioners are so afraid of creating false hope that they don't want to create any hope at all. And I also think that's negative nocebo activating in individuals. They need to know that you believe with a smile on your face that they can get better. So let's also talk for a moment about the process of change. This is something, in fact, we just finished creating this really juicy, awesome 5-hour class at SAFM, because again, we teach a lot of these clinical skills on facilitating lifestyle change. And as I said before, the practitioner may falsely believe that having intellectual awareness of what's in the way of healing somehow is enough to make people want to change. Or even worse, make them able to change or ready to change. It doesn't do any of those things. Plenty of people are walking around knowing full well that they could change something, and they may even believe 100% that it can have a dramatic effect, and they don't do it. They don't do it. They don't act. People act when they're ready and willing and able. And often people are only one of those things. So we must see, as part of the scope of healthcare, helping them to get to the place where they are ready, willing, and able to change. It must be part of the scope of healthcare. And so we have to help them to assess these things. I believe in actually asking people to quantitatively gauge on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to make this change? Let's say it's changing up their sleep habits, maybe going to bed before 10 p.m. How motivated are you to make this change? Maybe it's eliminating a food, right? Who knows? Maybe it is stopping their work in their home office no later than 6 p.m. Every night, right? How motivated are you to make this change on a scale of 1 to 10? And then to ask them, what is your confidence in your ability to make that change? People can be crazy motivated and have pretty low confidence on their ability to do it. And their confidence is low often because they don't feel ready. It's not the right time. I don't have the right tools. I haven't thought about it enough and gotten my head wrapped around it. I have a lot of questions. I don't have resources. I need help. I need support to do this. And we must help them to access those, not by over-delivering ourselves and rescuing them and providing it for them, but being able to provide them tools and resources that they, of their own volition, can reach out and follow through on for themselves, taking action for themselves to change what is happening on a day-over-day basis on their life. Paying attention to how they rate those things. At SCFM, we teach that the greatest service that any of us provide toward the goal of getting well and staying well from chronic disease is education, yes, but also inspiration, empowerment, and community, right? It's not enough for people to understand, oh my gosh, that's what's causing my chronic acid reflux? That is so cool. It's really interesting. It's like watching a TED Talk, right? That is so interesting. The fact that it's interesting may or may not motivate them to change at all. The fact that it's interesting or even captivating may not give them confidence in their ability to change at all. So this is where we have to inspire them with that education in terms of what is possible for their particular situation. It also highlights a key underpinning of inspiration for a unique individual patient is having them define what is the emotional laden why that is going to be meaningful enough, heavy enough, have enough gravity in their life that they're going to be willing and able to transcend their habits in order to make different daily lifestyle choices. Because if they don't have an emotionally provocative and significant enough why, they're also not going to sustainably change their life. Because habits are like Velcro. We all know, depending on the research paper you read, it takes basically between 1 and 2 months to change a habit. A really entrenched, comfortable habit is probably a good 2 months, maybe a little longer. And so there's a lot of discomfort that happens between today and the 2 months from now when my habit is locked in. And if I'm going to change my life, I've got to be willing to get up every day and allow my why to be strong enough that it transcends the constant niggling voice in my head from my ego that really is not interested in me changing. It's a powerful point of patient education. The ego, the voice in your head, is usually fully interested in having you continue to perpetuate what you've always done, because even if it's undesirable, it is the devil you know. It is the suffering you know. It is certain. We've experienced it. Your ego is often largely helping you to repeat your past, to stay where you are, because it helps to ensure your survival, because even if there are threats and challenges, we know what they are. We've experienced them before, so we can navigate them again. Sustainably changing your life is very threatening to your ego because you're busting out, basically asserting, no, I can change. I'm willing to risk the discomfort, the uncertainty of changing things, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it every day, and it's going to be my new reality. For the average person, the ego starts to kind of chuckle and go, oh my gosh, who do you think you are? No, don't do that. Let me fill your mind with all sorts of doubt and questions and uncertainties and second thoughts and unexpected negative outcomes of why you may not want to actually risk making a positive change. And people think about these things in the shower, while they're commuting, when they wake up in the middle of the night, when they get up in the morning and they're drinking their cup of coffee, and these things creep in. And if people don't have a poignant, emotional laden why to counter that voice with, yeah, I get it, it's risky. Yeah, I get it, it's it's uncertain. I get it, there's stuff I don't know, but darn it, I'm gonna do it because ... It's got to be an emotionally laden, motivating, provocative why. And a part of your intake session should be asking them to specify their why. And if they don't know, it should be their very first homework to figure it out and to write about it and to email that into you. Because in the absence of an anchoring why, I think the effort to try to make sustainable lifestyle changes is probably going to be more of a revolving door. Because it's not enough to carry people through the natural survival drive in the human egoic lens, which is about staying the same, perpetuating what we've always done, repeating our past, because it's the devil we know. But there's another expectation that I want to highlight, which is about communicating to your patients what Dr. Sidney Baker long ago identified in his great wisdom as a father of functional medicine, which is the 3-TAC model. And this is the truth that most of chronic lifestyle-mediated diseases are not being sustained because of one lifestyle choice, one nutrient deficiency, one source of stress, one offending food, right? There's a basket of factors that are at play. And so often the approach that our patients want to take without education or expectation setting from us otherwise is, I'm going to try one thing at a time. Okay, I'm going to try eliminating gluten. That's all I'm going to do, and see if it helps me in some dramatic way. And they're going to try it. They're going to focus on it. And then when it doesn't work, they're going to stop eliminating gluten, and then they want to try the next thing. Okay, now I'm going to try this B-complex supplement you recommended for me, and that's all I'm going to do. And they want to try one thing at a time as though there's just one dynamic involved. And Dr. Sidney Baker's lesson taught us that if there's a chair and it has 3 thumbtacks, pointy side up, and you sit in them and get 3 thumbtacks stuck in your rear end and you're in pain, his challenge to you is, let's say you take out one of those tacks. How much relief are you going to get? Probably none. But have you made progress in identifying the root causes of disease and addressing them? Absolutely. You've addressed 1/3 of the pointy, stabby problem. But there's going to be probably no relief whatsoever. You're going to pull out the second of those stabby thumbtacks from your rear end. Now you've taken out 2 of 3. Do you have some relief? Probably at that point. There's probably some relief. But is it going to be all relief, 100% relief? No way. In fact, it's probably not even going to be 2/3 relief. It's probably going to be maybe 15, 20% relief. It's not going to be until you take out that 3rd tack and you keep all 3 of them removed simultaneously that people are going to say, oh my gosh, my pain went away. And it will feel sudden to them. It was not sudden. It was a logical, predictable outcome from the methodical removal of all 3 tacks and keeping them removed simultaneously. If you don't set people's expectation about that up front, then they're not going to understand why they keep trying things one at a time and nothing seems to work. It's because they have to try them all together simultaneously. And they need your help to introduce them at a pace and with particular solutions that are actually sustainable in their lives using a creative toolbox. But we have to engage people with these types of expectations up front so that they don't develop a nocebo effect, become hopeless, or to give up on their lifestyle choices unknowingly, simply from having poor expectations or inappropriate expectations. There's so many other things that I could talk about today. But what I want to end on, well, 2 things. I'm just going to cover 2 things real quick. One of them is encouraging each of you to take a look at what are some of the most common missteps that you make in your clinical encounter. Marilena Minucci, I think, is a really excellent, she's an expert in the realm of facilitating lifestyle change. And she talks about how traditional healthcare in the world of chronic disease is often carried out using a framework called the drama triangle. And this is about sort of a 3-pointed relationship that has in it a victim, a persecutor, and a rescuer. And certainly many of our patients can struggle with feeling like a victim or presenting themselves as a victim, that somehow their disease is 100% not their responsibility, not their fault. It's a separate badness that was done onto them. And we have the opportunity to engage in there and just begin to shift that perspective a bit, not from the lens of blaming, but from the sense of showing them the truth about the impact of people's choices on disease dynamics. But many of us as practitioners can default to falling into the role of persecutor or rescuer. A persecutor can easily fall into blame and shame, and in particular as motivators and working with patients and clients, which can be really demoralizing. It's a criticism, right? If you really cared about your health, if you really prioritized your healing, you'd be willing to change your diet. You'd stop struggling so much. Oh my gosh, do you want to get well, or do you want to complain about how hard it is? And we can be very critical and judgy. And we think if we don't say those words, we just think them, it doesn't come out. Of course it comes out. People can spot a judgmental face, a judgmental mindset, a judgmental tone far, far away. And so if we feel that somehow we are the paternal expert, we can fall into a persecutor role that really marginalizes the importance of the patient in owning and driving the healthcare encounter. On the other side, some of us can default to rescuing people, which also comes from a place of believing that the patient isn't capable. It's just a more perhaps kind-hearted or sympathetic viewpoint to come from. You're struggling with changing your diet. Okay, let me map out a plan for you. Let me make some phone calls for you, right? Let me flood you with resources. Let me go overboard in delivery to try to make up for action you're not taking on behalf of yourself. And we think that helps people. In the realm of chronic lifestyle-mediated disease, I don't think it helps people at all. It keeps them hyper dependent on you. It may keep them praising you and keeping them in a place of gratitude for you, but it's not helping them to take back control of their health and accepting responsibility for their actions and their daily lifestyle choices. And so this is a really dysfunctional triangle. And instead we have the opportunity to think more about the empowerment triangle. Quantum coaching teaches about empowerment triangle, and instead of having a victim and a persecutor and a rescuer, we have a creator at the top of the triangle, a patient who is creating a different future, creating a different future health for themselves. And anchoring the bottom of the triangle, we have a challenger and a coach. A challenger, someone who sees another possibility for this person, paints the inspiration of that other possibility, and puts out to them the opportunities, but then also supports that with coach support. And again, that may be in the same person, maybe the same person being challenger and coach. It may be two different people. It may be two different people in a multimodality team. Hugely passionate about multimodality teams. We teach about them at SAFM, how to form them, what to be aware of, all of this type of thing from a clinical skills viewpoint. But the coach is about accountability, right? Working with an individual to activate their motivation, to activate their own choices, to activate their own confidence, and not rescuing them from the opportunity, certainly celebrating their progress, but holding them accountable for taking action that they're passionate about, and doing so with smart goals and tiny habits, and using chained activities and the absolute necessity of celebration in order to help people make step-by-step lifestyle change. And forming a completely different triangle and defining what is your role in that triangle. What is your unique brilliance in the healthcare encounter? Are you currently performing specific activities on a day-over-day basis that's not actually your unique brilliance in the healthcare encounter? And you'd be better off working with someone else who has a different set of skills, doing the part you love and are crazy passionate about, while someone else who is like-minded does other components of the clinical intervention that you aren't expert at or that you don't love doing. It's also a great way to avoid burnout. So making sure that we avoid the drama triangle and we create an empowerment triangle. But I want to end by really talking a little bit more about the notion of facilitating lifestyle change, right? And I'm going to end where I began. Facilitating, not fixing, not alluding to, not tossing the opportunity out there without support, without accountability, without tools or resources, and assuming that the science is sexy enough for the patient that they're going to knock themselves down to change their life. Facilitating. And I want to encourage all of us to take a keen look at the way we practice today. To what extent are you, in your regular healthcare encounters, making space and prioritizing action in your engagements, whether they're virtual or in person, whether they are frequent or spaced, whether they're short or whether they're long? I get it. All sorts of clinical intervention or business models have pros and cons and strengths and weaknesses and benefits and limitations, all of them. Every single one of them is capable of facilitating lifestyle change. I want to challenge you to think, where are you facilitating lifestyle change, and you have an opportunity to name it and celebrate it and emphasize it and make sure you do it consistently? But where are the big glaring gaps where you know you're not facilitating lifestyle change? And you probably feel that in yourself based on maybe a lot of the slow progress that people are making in getting well. Maybe a huge amount of what we call getting off in the weeds or recycling, where people are doing really well and then they completely derail themselves for unexpected or expected reasons. And a certain amount of recycling is to be expected, and it's actually a normal, healthy part of lifestyle change. In the process of getting off in the weeds, we usually feel like crap. And so it galvanizes our commitment to the healthier lifestyle choices. It's a chance to evaluate, maybe what I've been doing isn't so sustainable anymore, so I need to change my support. I need to change my choices to stay on track, given who I am today versus who I am when I got started. But when people start recycling all the time, right? This is a heads up that perhaps people are not getting the support that they need. They don't have the resources that they need. They don't have the accountability they need. The expectations haven't been set properly for what is at play. There hasn't been enough galvanized belief in the potential of this encounter. Start being honest with yourself about what are you missing, so that you can begin to shift the way you practice. Yes, because your patients want and deserve that. But I've got to tell you, the strongest stand that I take from a leadership viewpoint for our large community of progressive healthcare practitioners, I take a stand for you, and for you not burning out, and for you doing this work and being deeply, richly fulfilled. Functional medicine's got lots of issues today. One of them is that doing the work via the methodology that a lot of practitioners are practicing is asking for overwhelm and exhaustion and burnout. It's literally the logical outcome. If you're a persecutor or a rescuer, it's pretty logical. It's not a surprise. It's pretty logical that you're going to end up exhausted, burned out, overwhelmed, and not fulfilled. And so this is why what we do here at SAFM is different. Deep respect for so many of our different colleague programs out there, and some of the leaders of which are good friends of mine and certainly well-respected colleagues. But we teach differently here at SAFM for a reason, because we see in thousands of practitioners who already have other training but still come to us for our transformational functional medicine training program because they know the science, but they're missing the devil in the detail know-how to ensure optimal outcomes. They're missing the constant case practice to build case capability and confidence to maximize their outcomes. And they're missing a keen ability to facilitate lifestyle change, which is essential for outcomes. On our watch, our practitioners richly receive all of that, not as like a little side weekend optional program, but as an entrenched, rich part of the foundational training that is not instead of the rich scientific education, but alongside it, just as important. Because our mission here at SAFM is not educating practitioners, It's not handing out certifications. It's making sure you have the resilient capability and confidence you need to get off the sidelines and get in the movement for healthcare transformation, doing this work, but doing it with joy, doing it with vitality, doing it with deep fulfillment because you see the massive impact that you are having, doing it because you've set yourself up for success to avoid burnout, to work in your area of greatest satisfaction, to work in your area of unique brilliance, to work with patients and clients who are committed, who show up knowing what to expect. That is the difference between functional medicine being a fad that we look back on 10 years from now as being, wow, it's a shame functional medicine failed, man, because it had so much promise. Or do we look back 10 years from now as functional medicine being the spark that lit a massive movement for healthcare transformation, and that on our watch was not just an awesome idea or a geeky, sexy science, but a transformational change, a new future in healthcare, a reversal of chronic disease epidemics. That is the future that we stand for. That is what we want for you. And on our watch here at SAFM, that is what we want to help you to make actually happen, to make a reality in your professional and personal life. I just want to say thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule for continuous education, continuous building not only of your scientific knowledge, but your critically important clinical skills.